Hello, welcome to the New York State Defensive Driving Course Instructor Transition presentation. This new program is based on the National Safety Council Defensive Driving Course 10th edition 6-hour curriculum. This pre-recorded webinar is for certified DDC instructors currently teaching the DDC 6 Classroom Point Reduction Insurance Discount Program in New York State. Instructors transitioning from the current DDC 6 New York course to the new DDC 10 course are not required to complete the instructor development course. This webinar, along with your instructor manual and the details in the instructor guidelines, should teach you what you need to know about the new DDC 6-hour New York program. Any new DDC instructor is required to take our e-learning instructor development course. If you've been teaching this for some time, you are certainly welcome to take the e-learning instructor development course also, but you're not required to do so. The e-learning instructor development course contains a session about what instructors need to know to teach the New York 6 course. It's approximately a 15-hour program all in. If you do not have the new New York 6-hour if you do not have the new New York 6-hour instructor resource kit in front of you right now, I would highly encourage you to stop the program until you have that kit available to you while we walk through. We will walk through the kit as well as the instructor manual thoroughly throughout this course. So make sure you have one in front of you. We have developed the New York 6 program from our brand new DDC 10th edition course. As a currently certified instructor, your training center will need to verify your name, instructor credential, and your email address to order the 10th edition instructor resource kit. That email address is very important. It's a very important part because this is how we will communicate with you. Please ensure that your training agency has your correct email address so that we can, so that NSC can communicate with you about your credentials, any program changes or updates that we have, and as well as continuing education courses. We're excited to share that the new DDC Information Highway is up and running and has a host of information for DDC instructors. This went live in 2019 with the launch of DDC 10. And if you haven't logged on to the Information Highway, we encourage you to do so and go check out all of the new features. We continue to build this website out for you, and these are resources for you, the instructor. The website is listed there and is in your instructor manual for your reference. It's important to note here that all active DDC 6 instructors, if you were active in the last program, if you were teaching the 9th edition, that those DDC 6 New York instructors that transition, you will be grandfathered into the DDC 10th edition, and you'll become DDC 10th edition instructors. Anyone who desires to become a new DDC instructor must complete that e-learning instructor development course. That's that 15-hour program. NSC no longer offers a classroom-based instructor development course. The demographics, the demand was simply there, that everybody wanted just-in-time training that they could have at their discretion. Online training was the demand of the industry, so we no longer offer classroom-based training. It's important to note that when you order your kit, your instructor resource kit, which includes the instructor manual, you will also need to have multimedia. The multimedia comes on either a USB or a DVD. So ahead of time, you must decide whether you will deliver the program using the USB which is most frequent. This is plugging a USB into a computer, or if you will use a DVD. If you play your multimedia off of a DVD player or a Blu-ray player, you must order the DVD version of the multimedia. USBs have both English and Spanish on the thumb drives. The DVD's Spanish version comes on a separate DVD. Make sure that if you have a newer computer and you intend to use USB, that you have a USB port on your computer. Your DDC Training Center must purchase each of your instructors their own Instructor New York 6 Instructor guide. They must have their own guide. Each training center must have appropriate number of multimedia. Your instructor resource kits with multimedia cost a bit more, so training centers may limit the number of multimedia they purchase, but each instructor must have their own instructor guide. Okay, that they don't need their own multimedia, but they need their own guide. The 10th edition New York 6 resource kit includes the 6-hour classroom instructor manual, 186 student course guide, and this guide, the 8.6 course guide, and we're going to talk about this in just a minute, but we need to make sure that you have one too, because you need one to show and demonstrate to the class, okay? And we'll get into that in just a little bit, and you also have a sample of the 8.6 completion certificate, and of course you'll either have a USB or DVD containing the PowerPoints and animations, whatever you choose. As a currently certified New York instructor, when the IRK is purchased for you, the Instructor Resource Kit is purchased for you, your teaching credential will change to the DDC 10th edition. It'll be an X. If you have a credential, we'll automatically change it to show that you teach. Sorry, it's the T, not an X. It's a T. It's the 10th edition. We have put thousands of hours into the updates of this new program. There have been many new additions since your course was last revised, but you will need to watch this program and study your course materials very carefully. I think that you will find that the instructor guide is a very good place to start. In this program, this presentation, we will first discuss the changes that we have made to the instructor manual. And then we will speak about the multimedia presentation. It will be important for you to note that I am not going to go through the program page by page. I will simply hit the highlights so that you can become familiar with the methodology of the program. Here's some other important notes. NSC has had such a great success with the behavior modifications model of Dr. William Glasser. Using reality therapy and choice theory in our other programs, these tenets have been incorporated into the 10th edition. The book Choice Theory by William Glasser, Dr. William Glasser, can be purchased online. Amazon has it. It's very reasonable. I think it's about $10 on Amazon. But this book is the premise of this whole program. We don't require you to read this book, but we do require new students to read portions of it. I encourage you to go out, get yourself a copy of Choice Theory, become familiar with it, and in Dr. Glasser's methodology, that will help you to teach this program. If you're teaching other programs from DDC, then you likely have been exposed to some of these tenets of choice theory already. And then next, the new instructor commitments have been added to the program. There's 10 instructor commitments that all transitioning instructors will be covered under. And those can be found on the back side of the front cover. So if you open up your instructor manual, that front cover, the first loose front cover is the back side of that. The first page is those 10 commitments. These 10 commitments govern the issue, revocation, or termination of your instructor credentials. To protect the reputation and effectiveness of the National Safety Council programs, we cannot have things added to the program that are not vetted by the National Safety Council. So let's go through those 10 commitments. Number 1, I will teach all NSC defensive driving courses as designed and detailed in the instructor manual, knowing that failing to do so could damage the reputation of NSC and will violate my instructor credentials. I will properly prepare for the programs I teach by ensuring I have a thorough understanding of all course materials as well as my state's rules of the road. Number 2, I will start my class on time. We'll run it for the full duration, and we'll begin each class with a brief reminder about emergency exits, restroom locations, shelter locations, etc. Number 3, I will accurately register, track, and submit student completion paperwork to my training center by the end of the next business day. Number 4, I will only give NSC DDC certificates to those who successfully complete the course. Number 5, I will be professional, respectful, and courteous towards students at all times while providing a safe, comfortable, non-threatening learning environment. I will never touch a student in any way, regardless of how harmless it may be. I will never belittle a student and will never allow a violent, disruptive student to remain in the classroom. Number 6, I will make the participants responsible for their own learning and will refrain from giving the students the answers. Number 7, I will always give each student a brand new, unused student course guide. Number 8, I will refrain from offering my interpretation of the law. Number 9, I will not provide my students with any external content, such as videos from YouTube or pictures from the internet, PowerPoint slides, etc., knowing that doing so violates my instructor credentials. Number 10, I will not violate U.S. copyright laws by copying or recreating any National Safety Council defensive driving course material. I understand that all NSC DDC materials and content are the registered property of the National Safety Council, and violators will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Well, that's a lot. And the most common question that we get from these 10 commitments is, can I tell my own stories in class? Absolutely. And we do not want you reading from the manuals. We don't want you reading from the manuals. We want you to use the recommended language in your own words to your audience, but you must cover the curriculum. Teaching DDC is about effectively instilling the content of this course into your students so they ultimately drive safer. We know that the content that we have provided works, and we know it does that. Anything outside of that, we can't guarantee that it will be effective. So feel free to add a few stories. The most important thing to remember here, though, is when you add stories, they often lead you astray, and you have very limited time during the course. So those stories cannot lead you to extending the course or skipping as you cannot skip other materials because you're running out of time. So we still need to cover the entire curriculum. So be mindful of your stories. We will cover the enhancements to your instructor manual. We'll not go page by page, as I said before. So you will want to follow along the presentation in your book, and let's go ahead and start with just an example of your instructor manual. The new 10th edition has color-coded pages. We also reference the course guide, the student's participant guide throughout the program and in your manual. It's important for you to remember also that you should be teaching from your instructor manual, not from the course guide. We hear about and we see often instructors out there walking around the classroom with the course guide and teaching it from that, and they have their own notes in their own course guide. That is not, we do not want you to do that. We want you to have your notes in your instructor's manual, and we want you teaching from the instructor manual. Now note, this is a screenshot of an actual page from the instructor manual. Note that on the left margin, there's the what to do column with some symbols. Well, those symbols correlate with the material, the activity, what's going on. Okay, those symbols are defined in your instructor guidelines. So there's a key, like an answer key, in your instructor guidelines. And note that on the top of every page of your instructor manual, you have in parentheses at the top left, there's parentheses with the letter CG, and then here it says cover. That is where in the program the students should be in their course guide. So here, for example, course guide cover. So they haven't even opened their cover yet. And then how do I interpret the rest of that margin in that page? Well, here's there's a what to say section. On the left margin it says what to do. So we're going to show slide 1. Well, slide 1 is a video. We're going to start the course right here, and you can see the symbol for video. In the multimedia, we're going to hit the play button and play the video. Any instructor notes down here in the green box, so you're going to read those. So you'll get used to how the course communicates to you and what you should be looking for. And then as we get into the material, you can see that again, here in green are things, these are activities or notes for you. And with those lines with the speaker, that is what we recommend you say. A speaker is saying. So I should say here, why are you here? And then follow that. In the U.S., approximately 100 people die in vehicle crashes every day. We don't often see this in the news headline. Okay, so that is generally how this is laid out. Okay, so debrief the video is the what to do. Welcome participants is again an activity. See the area at the top that says CG cover? Every page has that. I mentioned that. Again, that's just for you. I was wanting to show rather than just cover, it actually has a number 2. So this is saying course guide page 2. It does give you that detail. And then just a reminder that you should not be teaching from that course guide. Remember, all your notes should be in your instructor manual. So it's important to know that there's a reason for that, because as you begin teaching, or if you're deposed, if you've been teaching for a long time, if you've ever been deposed, you know that your instructor notes are a very important part of that deposition. National Safety Council has scripted the material. If anything has been stated outside of that, it should be identified in your instructor manual. So it's important for you and that to protect you as an instructor. Avoid any and all prejudice, sexist, or offensive language. This is especially true of any stories that you choose to add into your program. So again, going back to the storytelling, we encourage you to tell small, short stories. Be very careful, and you only use a few and use the same one so that you know that you're not using offensive language. You're not offending anybody. Okay, so that is, just note that is an area that we see frequently, unintentional maybe not be intentional, but we can be offensive in our language unintentionally. As you practice with the audio visuals prior to teaching your first class, make sure you take a look at those instructor guidelines. That's going to help you tremendously. That's where that key is for the emblems and so forth. The multimedia contain all of the PowerPoints, graphics, animations, videos, You are to use those listed in your manual, included in your multimedia, and no others, okay? So if you need instructions, directions on how to use or how to start up the USB, you can find that on pages 18 to 22 of your instructor manual, and the DVD instructions are there on page 23 to 27. I just want to note and share with you all of the content, all of the graphics within the multimedia as well as in the manual are taken, or they are in compliance with the MUTCD, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So you will see all these graphics, and we have verified that they are all in compliance with MUTCD. And that's the Uniform Traffic Control Device System. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Let's start by talking about the New York State National Safety Council Defensive Driving Course. DDC 6 New York is 6 hours. We mentioned that it's 320 minutes of instructional time. You are required to instruct for 320 minutes in order to complete the course and be state compliant. Your learners must participate for the full 320 minutes. Participation is anticipated to be at least 50%, and we expect that you as an instructor will get everyone in the class participating, at least a majority, large majority. The overall goals of the course are to influence and challenge participants to change their behind-the-wheel behaviors and attitudes so that they will choose to drive safely, responsibly, respectfully, and lawfully. We also want to provide participants with the knowledge, skills, and techniques to improve their driving-related choices and thereby avoiding any collisions or decrease any future violations. The course includes the following materials: your DDC 6 New York Instructor Manual, a course guide. This guide is for you. This guide is intended for you to use as a demonstration, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. There are two different versions of the course guide. The 8.6 course guide, which is shown here, has that upper right in the second image from the left here, upper right-hand corner, you'll see that blue flag that says 8 6-hour course guide. Make sure that this is the one you have. There is another one that is titled 4-hour course guide. We want to make sure that you're using the 8.6 course guide. Of course, the multimedia, USB drive, USBs, or if you choose the optional DVD, you would have that instead, not both typically. And then you'll have student record cards and the New York State DMV Point in Insurance Reduction Program fact sheet, also known as Form C-32A. It's Form C-32A. Just a note that brand new instructors will also receive a book titled Choice Theory, which is a Psychology of Behavioral Change by Dr. William Glasser. Choice theory is a critical concept within the National Safety Council Defensive Driving course because ultimately we're trying to influence drivers to make safer choices. As you deliver the course, you'll employ a number of instructional methods. These include instructor presentation of course content and facilitation of activities. Well, of course, you are going to be presenting material, but we also will be facilitating various activity. And you are presenting content. We also want you to lead course discussions, and that's bullet 3 here. But so we obviously have multimedia videos and animated visuals that we'll be using, and the instructor-led class discussions. That's not you talking the whole time. That's instructor-led. You lead the conversation and really use the knowledge of your students to help teach the program. And then written activities. There are several written activities in this program and small group discussions. Now, please refer to the beginning of your instructor manual. The page number is Roman numeral 4, IV. Look at the overview of the NSC Defensive Driving course. The New York 6 consists of 6 sessions, delivered over 320 minutes of instructional time. Each session includes 50 to 60 minutes of instructional time, and each lesson is 10 to 20 minutes in length. We've included recommended breaks throughout the overview, and you can see, but remember, those breaks are not included in that 320 minutes. So as you prepare to deliver the course, read through the topics covered in each session and lesson, and practice delivering the content within the time allotted. It's important to stay on schedule throughout this course. Now let's discuss steps to help you prepare. Proper tables and chairs. So we're asking these students to sit in class for 6 hours. Okay, that can be a long time, so we want to make sure that they have comfortable and safe seating arrangements, and we also want to make sure that we have proper tables for them to use. There are writing assignments here, so we need space for them to comfortably and safely write and sit for up to 6 hours. If you're using the USB drive for multimedia, you'll need a computer that is capable of playing multimedia from a USB drive along with a large digital display. More and more computers today, especially your laptops, are coming that don't have a USB drive. So make sure whatever computer you're intending to use, in fact, has a USB port. Okay? If you're using the DVD, then you need a DVD player or Blu-ray and a TV or monitor or screen. If you use a TV monitor, you must make sure that it's large enough so that all visuals can easily be seen from the back of the room. You'll also need a dry erase board or easel with paper and markers, extra pencils or pens for students, and the name tents. The name tents are included in the back cover of every course guide. We'll actually go through an activity here in a little bit to fill these in. But what you'll need is you'll need to allow time, but also you'll need to have markers for your students to fill these name tents out. Okay, so general rule of thumb, I like to have 1 marker for every 2 students. It would be great if I had enough markers for every student. That would speed things up for me. Markers for students to fill out their name tents, as I mentioned, each student, or at least 1 for every 2. Each participant will need the following. Each participant will need a copy, their own personal copy of the 8-6 course guide. That has to be new. It can't be copied. It cannot be photocopied. It must be each individual participant's own to take with them. They should also have a student record card, 1 per participant. They should get a copy of the Point and Insurance Reduction Program Facts for Consumers form. That's Form C32A. That's every student needs to get one of those in New York. And then, of course, pen and pencil. They may be requested to bring a pen and pencil with them, but you as an instructor should make sure that you have extra pens and pencils for them should theirs fail to work or should they fail to bring one. So what do you need? You will need your DDC 6 New York Instructor Manual with your notes pre-written in there and your tabs and everything organized the way you desire. You'll need your 8-6 course guide, yours. That's your copy for demonstration purposes. And you'll need a participant roster. In New York, you'll also need the class sign-in form. That's the DDC New York class sign-in form, and multimedia or USB, or multimedia either USB or DVD, whichever it is you have chosen. Some instructors choose to have both. Some like to have, they bring the USB, but they have the DVD for backup just in case. I've seen that before. Not a bad idea to have a backup. Now let's review some important administrative aspects of the New York DDC defensive driving course. Much of this has not changed, but this will be a good time for you to review. Okay? Before participants enter the room, You must write the following information on the easel or dry erase board. This information must be posted in the classroom at all times during the course. We should title National Safety Council and with the National Safety Council telephone number. That's the 800 number. We should also have a delivery agency name and the telephone number of that delivery agency. Your full name and NSC instructor ID number. Just note that New York State does in fact require you to use your full name. Now, you as the instructor are required to maintain order in the classroom. So, if necessary, you should ask a student to leave the class if they are being disrupted. Make sure the class size does not exceed the New York DMV requirements of 40 students, maximum. The DMV has specific requirements for classroom square footage per participant. The delivery agency should calculate student capacity by using the following guidelines. Multiply width times the length of the room and then divide it by 15. For example, if I have a 20-foot by 20-foot room, that's 400 square feet, and I divided that by 15, which does equate to 26 students. So if I have a 20 by 20 room, I can accommodate 26 students in that room safely, according to the DMV. The class must be taught for a total of 320 minutes. If a student arrives late, give them options. So they can stay late to make up the time, or if we have a 2-day class and they miss the beginning, maybe they could sign up for that session in which they missed the beginning of another session. Note that per NSC manual rules and procedures, however, both sessions must be completed within 30 days. So let's talk a little bit about that student record card. These must be filled out in their entirety. We have to note that the driver's license number, date of birth, gender, and name must be exactly as shown on the student's driver's license. The bottom of the student record card must be filled out at the time of class with the instructor. The delivery agency must keep one copy for their records, and the delivery agency must also give one copy to the student as their receipt for the class. These are DMV requirements. Each participant must be given his or her own copy of the 8-6 participant course guide, as mentioned earlier, as well as the Point Insurance Reduction Program, PIRP. This is the Facts for Consumers form, and also referred to as the C-32A form. Course guides may not be reused or copied. The Defensive Driving Course New York sign-in form must be used to track attendance for the class. After class, instructors must return this to the delivery agency for submission to the National Safety Council. Students must sign in for each session of the course that is delivered over 2 days. If the course is held in 1 day, the students must sign in at the beginning of class and again after returning from any food break, such as lunch or dinner. The instructor is required to sign the bottom of the sign-in sheet along with the head of the delivery agency. Now, the delivery agency must complete the class report form in its entirety after class. The class code should be the same on the student record cards and sign-in sheet. Specific areas that need to be completed entirely on this report form include the instructor's name, instructor number, the number of students that were trained in the course, and the total amount due for the class. Work with your delivery agency to determine instructor responsibilities related to this class report form. Now, we will issue certificates of completion following the course. Those will be mailed from National Safety Council within 45 business days following the class is complete, following the completion of your course. Make sure that you inform students that they can contact National Safety Council if they do not receive their certificate after 45 business days. So after 30 days, they should not be calling us because it's likely in process or in the mail. But after 45 days, if they still do not have it, advise them to contact National Safety Council. There is a $10 fee for duplicate certificates requested after 6 months of course completion. There's also that fee for requests to have certificates emailed or mailed to a different address other than the one that they provided to us and that what we have on file. Now let's look at a few specific design elements included in the course. I will not go through the course page by page again, but we will look at some of the highlights to assist you with familiarizing yourself with this new curriculum. The New York National Safety Council Defensive Driving course is designed as a modular course with 6 sessions, each of which includes several lessons of 10 to 20 minutes. This modular design helps participants to maintain focus on each topic. It also provides an incremental approach to learning so that participants develop their knowledge in a step-by-step fashion and throughout the course. The course is intended to be highly interactive. Let's try to keep participants engaged. We have discussion questions which are included throughout the course so that learners can demonstrate their own knowledge and participate actively in class. We also have included written activities, videos, and animations. These should help learners to visualize key concepts and consider how they apply to their own situations, their own life, their world. Additionally, learners are asked to analyze written and video scenarios and provide input on defensive driving techniques that can be applied to their situations in their world. At the end of the course, participants will create individual action plans to help them apply what they've learned after the course. This is probably one of the most important pieces for the student. They're going to be given the tools needed to make good decisions and choices. They then write an action plan that they can take with them, and it's up to them to put that action plan into action for themselves, to choose better choices behind the wheel. You'll notice that the course materials include a final test. But in New York, as most of you probably remember, you will not administer that test. And so the course guide, at the back of the course guide, every student will have, they'll see a test. We won't administer that. In fact, instead, you will use the final test as a course review. You'll read each question out loud to the class and ask the class for the correct answer. For each question, you will then explain the correct answer and refer participants to the appropriate page in their course guide. Those pages are provided on your answer sheet. So let's take a look at the multimedia. Most important thing here is it's critical that you practice opening and navigating the multimedia several times before you present the course for the first time. So when we put the multimedia in, whether it be USB or DVD, we should, and we open up the presentation, we open up the program. This screen on the left is the one that populates first, okay? We want to make sure that we select the red, the center of the arrow, the red part says 6-hour course. We select that and the next screen populates. You'll see 6 circles in a circle. The top circle says session 1. We select session 1 and that bottom image is what will populate into our multimedia. We want to practice this to make sure that this is in fact working on your systems and that can be clearly seen through the course. So that bottom piece, so we're actually going to walk through this. So this is what populates first. When I open the program, I'm going to select 6-hour course in red. That takes me to the 6 lessons, and I'm going to select session 1, and this will populate. This is where, this is what will be showing when the students enter the room. So before delivering the course, you'll need to take some steps to prepare. Read your instructor guidelines. Understand them, know them. I can't stress enough that we have written very detailed instructor guidelines for you to help you deliver your program and understand the new curriculum. Read through each session and lesson to familiarize yourself with the course structure and how different content is delivered. Take the time way ahead of your class to research New York State vehicle and traffic laws and write notes into your instructor manual, particularly in lesson 4-3, which is this lesson is dedicated to New York State vehicle and traffic laws. Practice using the instructor manual when teaching. Practice navigating through the slides, animations, and videos in the multimedia. Become familiar with what comes next. Now, throughout the course in your instructor manual, you will see New York State vehicle and traffic laws cited. Those are cited in your instructor notes, those green segments. Citations include relevant laws by the law's title, article, and part number. It is important that you research each law cited in the manual prior to delivering the course. You want to make sure that the content, the information that you have, the information that you're teaching, is accurate and up to date, as laws do change. But as of the publication of this program and the publication of your instructor manual, these laws were in effect at that time. So New York vehicle and traffic laws are available in book form at any Department of Motor Vehicles office, and they do charge a nominal price. The books can also be ordered by mail. In addition, the New York State Legislature maintains a website that has the text of the laws of the New York State. After opening the Consolidated Laws page, the vehicle and traffic laws can be located in the alphabetical laws list. This website is listed here. That is the direction that I typically head. I go directly to the legislature site, and they do maintain that site quite frequently. So that's a great source for you to verify your laws prior to teaching. So in lesson 4-3, you and the class will work through a series of questions about New York State vehicle and traffic laws. So in your instructor's manual, the article number of the law relevant to each question is listed. However, you will need to research the detailed answers to each question and make notes in the instructor manual so that you are prepared to deliver this lesson. That will take some time in planning, so plan ahead and make your notes for yourself. So as we get into the curriculum, the very first slide, so after giving students the rules of your classroom and introducing them to the program, we begin the program using this video, Why Are We Here? So following the video, you have course discussion. You follow your manual and you'll see it'll tell you exactly what to do or what discussion to preempt. And you are then managing the discussion of the class. The next thing, the next exercise you will come to as you progress through session 1, you'll encounter the My World activity. Every course manual, course guide, has a perforated back page. Every course guide has a perforated back page. So this is where you're going to demonstrate using your course guide, the one that you have. You're going to demonstrate to the students the removal of that back page. Once we've removed the back page, we fold it on the perforated edge in half, and then we tear that back page in half. I begin by explaining the top half to them. this is the card. This is the replacement. You'll notice that we no longer have course evaluation cards. So this card is for the students to fill in your instructor ID number, your name, and the date of the class. They will then take this with them after class, and we will want to explain to the participant that the student evaluations are not required, however highly encouraged. And if they do participate, they will be entered into a quarterly drawing for a gift card. So one instructor told this very well, I thought, and I thought it would be important to share with you. This is a little bit like being given a lottery ticket. If someone gave me a lottery ticket, I would play. So we are seeing a great participation in the student evaluation, especially in those areas where the instructors are remembering to tell them about the card and reminding them at the beginning and at the end of class about the incentive, that quarterly drawing for the gift card. And then the other half of that card, the bottom, is the name tent. So you'll need, again, you'll need markers for the students to fill in their names. You'll give them just a few minutes to put their names on the name side in marker, and then they will rotate that card, and on the other side, this is the My World exercise. We'll have the students write their top 3 things that are fun for them. We also will have them list 3 people that are, or 3 people or pets or critters or whatever they choose to use, 3 things that are important to them, 3 people that are important to them. The exercise allows the student to start to see their quality world. We have them place that name tent in front of them with their name facing forward. That way, their world items that they wrote will be facing them as they begin to reflect on the following lessons that they encounter, those discussions that they get into, and then they can start relating how their driving decisions may be affecting their quality world. These are tenets of the choice theory. Now, the 6 deadly choices are an instrumental part of the new program. These 6 driving behaviors lead to the majority of injury-related and fatal crashes in the United States. The 6 deadly choices include speeding, following too closely, distracted driving, turning improperly, driving left of center, violating the right-of-way. During this lesson, you will open the discussion for each of these behavior choices. The idea is to get your students involved in the discussion. Get them involved while you remain objective and non-judgmental. For example, you wouldn't want to, for example, ask the students in the class, why would someone speed? You never want to say, why would you speed? We want to stay objective here. We want to stay at a high level and just have everybody think in general about the outside world. Why would someone speed is a great way to say that. Now, you'll see in session 2 where we define defensive driving. This is also where in session 2 we will go through New York laws. We will introduce some very specific New York laws related to driving and defensive driving. So session 2 will have, but defensive driving is the personal responsibility of everyone who operates or rides in a motor vehicle. It's important to note that these New York specific items, such as the laws, are not in the student's course guide. You will need to make sure you refer them to the course guide and to the notes page. Page 6 in the course guide is the first notes page where they can actually write the New York code into their manual. It will not be in there for them. However, this content will be on the test at the end. So in order to meet the objectives, it's very important that they take note of the New York specific laws, which will not be in their course guide. So just a sample in session 2 of the scenarios. So here, find the hazards, exercise, and scenario. You're going to play all 4 of these videos, all 4 of these scenarios, okay? And then open discussion on them. To recognize the hazard is a little bit different. This one, you're going to pick one. Pick 1 or 2, but pick one. So let's pretend that I select scenario 1. So I select scenario 1, and then by choosing scenario 1, I play that video. The video ends, and the class then needs to make a selection, a choice of how to proceed. Solicit responses and play the option that they ask for. So let's say that they pick option 3, reduce your speed. Well, in this particular scenario, that is the correct answer. So we then play that, and you'll be able to show them what happens or the behavior or what the outcome is by choosing the correct answer. But it's important that if they do happen to choose that one, we show them what could have happened if they'd have chose the other one. So I play at least one of the other ones as well. And what we found during these sessions was, well, I want to see all of them. I want to see all of the other options. And feel free to do so. Just keep in mind your time at this point. So that's not included in your timing. So make sure you have enough time to do those things. I mentioned earlier that we would come back to some of the MUTCD, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. All these graphics are compliant with do show typical roadways. And so this is your opportunity to use these graphics, if time allows, to discuss proper vehicle movement and encourage participants to understand the importance of legal and responsible behavior on interchanges such as this. So, you might give them a scenario. If you are in the number 1 lane, traveling from left to right, let's say that's eastbound, and there's a car that's coming off the on-ramp, and you need to exit, things like that. So get the discussion, show them what's expected, show them what's legal, and then show them what is responsible behavior. Turns, still one of the 6 deadly choices. We're going to use these graphics for an opportunity to demonstrate and show them proper turns. Show them turning into the correct lane, maintaining lane position, when approaching the intersection, how to proceed, check left, check right, check ahead, check left again. Okay, so intersections have not changed, but the graphics do still are compliant with MUTCD regulations. Then we include the new course guides are designed to include extra information on other highway users. Some of the topics in the course guide include trains, rail crossings, dealing with emergency vehicles, motorcycles, pedal cycles, pedestrians, just to name a few. We also introduced the concept of the vulnerable road user. Okay, so we're going to get into those more specifically. We've also included session 5 covers light rail vehicles. There are more and more of these interacting with traffic across the country and around the world. So we found it important to include light rail and trolley information here as well. So make sure you cover that, especially in your jurisdictions where they have trolleys or light rail vehicles on the roadways. The new course guides are designed to include extra information on other road users, and this is what I was talking about with the vulnerable road users, but we also have other road users. Large vehicles, slow-moving vehicles, emergency vehicles, motorcycles, school buses, animals. Please note that some of the material covered in the multimedia may be less specific than what you need to cover using your instructor manual. For example, the video on school buses makes general reference to how to interact with school bus with a stop arm activated on the divided highway. The New York state law specifically covers this and demands that all vehicles come to a complete stop, even on a divided highway. You must cover this for the student, as it will not be covered using the multimedia alone. You will, however, cover that in session 6 when talking about school buses specifically, and you will be required to reference the law for school buses. The other element to that particular video, the other road users video, was the interaction with emergency vehicles and the move over law. The move over law should be specifically detailed and talked about within Session 6. So I mentioned vulnerable road users. Some of these vulnerable road users include pedestrians, powered wheelchairs, skaters or skateboarders, pedestrians on wheels. One instructor said, very, very funny, but that's true. They're pedestrians on wheels. They're vulnerable road users. Pedal cycles. Typically, we always refer to cycles as bicycles. So it's a bicycle lane, or really it's pedal cycles, and that's becoming more prevalent because of the different types of pedal cycles. Those types of pedal cycles may include your bicycles, which is 2 wheels, a seat, operated by human power. But we also have, with pedal cycles, we have tricycles, recumbent bicycles, pedal saloons. The pedal saloons are interesting. This is a topic that around the country we're seeing more and more of these pedal saloons, where it's pedaled by human power, driven by an operator, and they are still vulnerable road users. They have no protections of a vehicle or a motor vehicle that as a motor vehicle would. It's also important to go back to other vulnerable road users and mention the animals. The animals include farm animals, the animals used for transportation like horse and buggy, and of course non-domestic animals. They are road users. They're not using it in the same way that you and I typically would. So we introduced some new concepts as well. Not only does terminology change, but new terminology is sometimes introduced. So in the new DDC 10th edition, we introduced this concept of the far-hand reach. The far-hand reach is a method of opening your vehicle door, regardless of whether you're the driver, the passenger, a passenger, it doesn't matter. It's using the far-hand reach. And if you think about it, as you're sitting in your automobile, you reach across using the far hand from the door to grab the handle. What happens is this automatically puts your shoulders in a place for you to look at your mirror, and it puts your peripheral vision looking down the side of the vehicle. This allows you to see any vulnerable road user that may be coming prior to you opening the door latch. If you travel outside the United States, you might hear this called the Dutch reach. In Europe especially, it's called referred to as the Dutch reach. The National Safety Council, we refer to it and use the term far-hand reach. Now, it's important to note we have a new certificate of completion. These certificates are copied or cannot be copied. They're printed on special non-copy security paper to help eliminate some of the fraud associated with defensive driving course completion. This new certificate will require a new template. Your training center administrator has access to the electronic template. Note that before printing, ensure that the paper is installed in the printer right side up and in the correct direction. Run a test before putting the certificate in the printer feed. This is important so that you're not wasting these certificates. These certificates are, we can't replace certificates that are printed improperly. They're all numbered, and this, making too many errors will become very costly. Never throw away any certificate that is not used at the same time. If it's not used, it's not printed on in any fashion, improperly or properly, those shouldn't be destroyed because they can be turned in to a training center, and the training center can exchange unused certificates for new edition certificates as they become available, as we issue new editions. So the preceding information was intended for you to transition to using the new DDC 10 version of the New York 6-hour program. This is the most modern, most up-to-date, and most comprehensive defensive driving program ever produced. Take the time to master the new material. This will ensure your success in the classroom. And though we believe the new layout is easier for you, we also know that it's change, and few people run towards change. The more you prepare, the easier this will be, and once you get used to the new flow, we think you're going to love it. Thank you for attending this course. We at the National Safety Council are driven to high-level customer service. We thank you for your continued support in our mission to educate drivers to help make safer roads. Be safe.